welcome back to MMA.I. Today we are another podcast, and today we're going to be talking about UFC Fight Night, Overeem versus Volkov. A good night that we have on the fights that we have this weekend. A really stacked main card and some decent prelims. And me and Oscar are here today to talk about the fights. How's it going, Oscar? And are you looking forward to the fights?
Yeah, it's going really well. It was another hellish weekend without fights. There was nothing going on. It's so frustrating when the UFC takes a break. They're back in Vegas this time around, and I couldn't be more excited.
Just quickly, the UFC took a break, but James Vick didn't. Did you watch that fight at ex-MMA?
Yeah, it looks really bad when that guy gets knocked out because he's so tall. And just a bunch of unfortunate events have happened in James Vick's life. Just getting knocked out over and over again. I think it might be time for him to retire.
I agree. That's the only word that came into my mind as soon as he got knocked out again. I think it was the fourth knockout loss in five fights. He needs to hang up quite soon. And that was a really good card in my opinion. They had some really good underrated fighters in that. They had Carl Bochniak, Marcel Gome. They had Francisco Rivera, his first fight since 2016, being cut from the UFC. After he tested positive, then got cut from the UFC. But yeah, that was a great card, great night, and I enjoyed the fights. And unfortunately, Vic got knocked out in that fight, and it was kind of sad. It's kind of sad to watch him when he gets knocked out. I just wanted to see him hang out.
Yeah, I actually did see UFC 217 that weekend, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And a lot of people forget that James Vick was once 9-1 in the UFC. He was once 13-0, and he faced a really tough up and coming Joe, not up and coming, but a very he used to be one of the better guys, Joe Duffy, and he was able to finish Joe Duffy that night in the main event of the prelims. And it's sad to see such a fall from grace.
Yeah, exactly. You put it perfect there. 9-1 in the UFC. His only loss before that was to Benil Dariush, when Benil Dariush knocked him out. And but yeah, Benil Dariush knew something that no one else did, and and then it kind of fell apart. Then when he got his hands, well, when Justin Gaethje's got his hands on Vic, it kind of fell apart as well. Just kind of went down, and now he's got knocked out on the regional scene. But anyway, we're here to talk about the UFC Fight Night. Alistair Overeem versus Alexander Volkov, a great main event, a good heavyweight main event, and some good fights on the card. So we'll start from the top. Oscar, what is your thoughts on the main event, and who do you think's got it?
Yeah, I actually think Overeem gets it done here. I'm so confident. I have money on him. He's the underdog, and I was actually really shocked when I saw that he was the underdog here because his teammate Curtis Blades absolutely dominated Alexander Volkov for 5 rounds last year in June. He completely nullified Volkov's stand up with those takedowns. He got about 12 takedowns that night. That was a personal best for Curtis Blades. And you have to be crazy if you don't think that Volkov is going to be in trouble here against Overeem, who has excellent wrestling as of late. Ever since he joined the Elevation Fight Team, coming off that loss to Curtis, he's gotten exponentially better. After that loss to Francis Ngannou, he faced, was it Sergey Pavlovich,
Mm-hmm.
and he destroyed him. He obliterated him. He he vindicated his nickname, the Demolition Man, that night. He got that nasty ground and pound, and he got a nasty ground and pound finish in his last fight against Augusto Sakai. And the odds that night were shifting in Sakai's favor the longer the fight went on, and he proved them all wrong with that brutal finish. He actually broke Sakai's ribs that night in the clinch with those knees, which is why Sakai's takedown defense was so awful. A lot of people thought it was bad takedown defense. No, it was those knees in the clinch. Those knees in the clinch are so impressive by Alistair, and he can not only hit you in the ribs, he can hit you in the head, just like he did in Mark Hunt. And he's a very bad matchup for Volkov. If you ask me, Volkov is actually coming off a win against Walt Harris, who Overeem beat last year as well. And I think that Volkov, he does well against guys with a bad cardio. He does well against guys who are very timid in their striking. And I think he's just not good enough to beat Overeem. He's not really a power puncher, which is what Overeem really struggles against. He's been knocked out over 10 times across combat sports. His chin is like very questionable, but here I just think he'll be able to defend himself from those big bombs that Volkov's going to try to throw, and he's going to dominate him for 5 rounds and get that decision just like his teammate did. What did you think?
That's the way I saw the fight going. As you said there perfectly, his teammate Curtis Blades took Volkov down at will, and Overeem, since moving to N Division fight team over there in the altitude, them guys over there have cardio for days up there in the hills, and yeah, them guys over there, Neil Magny, Curtis Blades. Alistair Overeem, their cardio over there is insane, and this is the way I see the fight going. I see the fight be going a 5 rounder, but I think Alistair Overeem will just have more in the tank, and he's going to mix it in with his strikes and his takedowns, and he's going to take him down at will. I think he's going to have the better ground game, the better striking, and he's going to go to a one-sided decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would have to agree there, and I actually put a couple bucks on it as well.
Yeah, so we're both picking Alistair Overeem in the main event, but the co-main event, Frankie Edgar versus Corey Sanhagen. I'll kick this one off, and in my opinion, I think Frankie needs to use his wrestling, and we've seen Corey, and he's vulnerable on the ground. We've seen him being choked out versus Aljamain Sterling recently, and this is exactly what Frankie needs to do to win. I think he needs to get the fight to the floor and look for a submission, but I feel like the reach of Corey Sanhagen might play a massive factor in this fight. How long he is, his strikes, where his kicks come from, the way he cuts angles with his punches and his kicks is incredible. But this is the type of matchup that Frankie's been dealing with his whole career. He's always been fighting the guys who are bigger than him, and he's only ever started to cut down to not lightweight, bantamweight. His last two fights was against his last fight against was it Jimmy Rivera? Maybe his last fight was and that was the first time he ever cut weight in a fight, which is incredible. But yeah, I feel like the reach for Corey Sanhagen will be tremendously important in this fight. But this is something that Frankie has been preparing for his whole career, and the only way I see this going, I see Corey Sanhagen winning a split decision, and I do not see the power of Corey troubling Frankie in this fight. I feel like you have to have Korean zombie power, as we've seen Frankie had get knocked out by him. I don't think Corey Sanhagen has that sort of power to kind of finish Frankie. We've seen Frankie is a durable guy. He's hard to put away. He takes a lot of shots, and the only way I see this going is decision, and in favor of Corey Sanhagen. How about you?
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Munoz is actually much more of a power puncher than Sandhagen is. Sandhagen's power really is in his feet, which he showcased that last time against Marlon Moraes. He was able to finish him in the second round with a spinning wheel kick. It was a perfect performance by Sandhagen. I thought Marlon would actually give him trouble early on, and Marlon never got going, and he hasn't looked the same since he fought the Sandman that night. And also, I believe that Sandhagen has the has cardio that's very similar to him. So I don't think it's going to be Frankie Edgar taking over later. So that's not going to be an advantage that Frankie's going to have this time around. And Pedro Munoz did not knock out Frankie, so I'm going to assume that Frankie can survive against Sandhagen. So I'm thinking this definitely goes to the judges' scorecards. If either guy wins, I also think that Sandhagen is a bad matchup for Frankie because of his long reach. His reach is only 2 inches longer, but the way he fights, he really likes to evade guys. And also, Frankie will not be able to out grapple him because he's way smaller, and it's not like the old days where he could just out grapple a BJ Penn. This is not those old days. This is where guys are now training mixed martial arts. Are training everything, and Sandhagen is very well rounded. He's not going to be able to be kept down like that. So that's Frankie's path to victory, if you ask me. Just out wrestle him and close the distance. And Frankie hasn't been too good at closing the distance. In that fight with Max Holloway, he never was able to get any real success in those exchanges. So I'm going with the Sandman here by unanimous decision.
Yeah, that you said, you took the words right out of my mouth there. The only way the path to victory for Frankie is Using his wrestling, and I said that, and that's the only way I see him winning the fight. But I just don't, I just don't see him winning the fight. I think Corey Sandhagen will use his reach, stay at distance, and will win the split decision. I think it'll be close. Maybe Frankie will get one of the rounds. If the third round or the first round, I don't see him get the second one after Corey's warmed up a bit. I feel like it's maybe the first one or the third one Frankie would take full advantage of. But yeah, Corey Sandhagen will win this fight, and by decision.
Yeah, I actually have money on that as well. It's a parlay with Overeem and Stamen.
So you've got Overeem, Corey, and Stamen.
Yes, I do.
That's a parlay
And
that will
it
probably come in.
actually results in 3 times the money. So those odds are really good because Overeem's the underdog.
Yeah, that's a confusing one. I'd say Overeem, in my opinion, would be the favorite.
Yeah, he's actually let me see right here. He's a plus 160 underdog, which means if you uh if you if you pay $160, they'll give you $100 in profit. So that's
Nice.
a good bet for any bettors out there.
Yeah, well, moving on to a one that I probably wouldn't bet on, Mancy Kielsen versus Marion Renault. Not much to really say about this fight. I'm not really interested in it, but I see Macy winning, and that's all I've really got to say.
Yeah, Macy is bigger, she's stronger, she's younger. She should get this done, but her cardio is very questionable. And Marion Renault has shown that she can actually turn it up later in the fight, despite her age being 40. She should get this done. I think Renault can actually get this done by split decision. It's going to be like a controversial decision. I think Renault gets it done by a split decision. It's going to be pretty competitive in the later rounds, but I think Chiesa will definitely win the first round.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's where I see it going. Macy taking the fight. Not one that I really wanted to I don't know. I just wasn't really interested in this fight. I don't think it should be on the main card. I think there's some fights on the prelims that could very replace this fight. And but I'm still happy to see Macy back. She's a great talent. She's a good prospect, and I'm excited to see how she looks on Saturday.
Yeah, she won the latest season of The Ultimate Fighter, and she was not facing the best competition in there, obviously because it was a featherweight season for women, and they all went back to bantamweight, showing you how weak that women's featherweight division is. They don't even have a top five because there aren't 5 fighters in that division.
All the featherweight fighters are over either in Bellator or that's it. That's it. Bellator featherweight women's division. They have quite a few fighters. PFL they only do lightweight, and yeah, UFC don't really have nothing in their featherweight division. I'd like to see them start building that division. That would be interesting to see. But
Yeah, they actually signed Danielle Wolf, a professional boxer, who I don't believe the Olympics did not have her weight class, which is why she did not participate. But she has the same punching power as Dustin Poirier, which she proved when she went over to the Apex and punched the Power Cube or whatever it's called. That's how we found out that Francis could hit as hard as a truck can go or whatever. Yeah, she's very
The Ford
powerful.
truck can hit as hard as a Ford truck.
Yeah,
Yeah, the famous line Dana likes to announce every time he's in a press conference.
yeah, that really made Stipe mad that time, and I think the marketing is gonna be once again around Francis Ngannou this time. The guy's gotten 4 first round knockouts.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I agree with you. But Dana White will always drop in a hint there, saying this is probably the best heavyweight in the world in the UFC, Stipe Miocic, and that's the only line he'll probably drop every time. But anyway, we'll talk about Manel Cape versus Alexandra Pinjota. I'll talk about this fight first. Manel Cape is very dangerous on the feet. When I was seeing his tape in his previous fights, he's really, really good. He has good setups with his punches and his kicks, and he has devastating power for a flyweight. I've seen that he has a lot of power in his hands. I've seen him knock a lot of people out, and this is something that he could probably take advantage of. But Panchota is a scrambler. He's really well rounded. Recently, his striking's getting a lot better. and he's a he's a legit BJJ black belt, and Pajota is very hard to be finished. We've seen that in the Davison Figueiredo fight. The durability on that guy, Davison hit him with everything but the kitchen sink. So if you're surviving against Davison Figueiredo, I see him surviving versus Manel Cap. And I see it's been a 15-minute war between these two. Cap has a good chin on him, good striking. Benjota's looking better, but I think Cap will take a decision, a really razor close decision.
Yeah, I actually have to disagree. When Cap loses, it's by submission. And guess what Pantoja is? He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
A legit one.
and he likes to get it done early.
Hmm.
And I think that's what's going to happen here over in the Apex. The smaller cage tends to favor the grappler, and that's what's going to happen here. I think he could get an arm triangle early on. I think I think this will be very competitive on the feet, but I have to give Pantoja the edge there as well. So I think he's going to hang. He's going to be able to win the exchanges on the feet, and he'll get a takedown. And I'm predicting an arm triangle choke in the first or second round for Alexander Pantoja.
Yeah, that's well, similar to my, well, not similar, but a different prediction. You gone the opposite way for Alexander Pinjota. I went for Manel Cape, but I predicted a 15-minute war and a razor close split decision to Manel Cap. But anyway, Cody Stanman versus Asker. I had to look at Asker. I had to look at some tape on him. From what I've seen, he has great cardio, some good wrestling skills, but he hasn't had a submission win on his record. And Cody as well has only 2 submissions in his career. So this makes me think the fight isn't going to get finished on the ground. But Stanman is very, he's got a lot of takedown heavy. Every time he comes in close, he looks to get a takedown. We've seen it a lot in his previous fights, and I believe Stanman will want to stand will not want to stand with Askar in the first, because I think Askar will be very explosive, very sharp in the first, and so he will take him down, and he'll have success on the ground, holding him, controlling him, and that will be the story of the fight. I think Stanman will take this via decision, with just a grueling fight for Stanman just holding him down and taking a decision.
Yeah, I think Stamen is one of the best wrestlers at bantamweight, and that's how he's going to win this fight. He's going to out wrestle him for 15 minutes, and he's going to effectively use his jab on the feet as he did in the fight with Jimmy Rivera. He still lost that, but Jimmy Rivera presented other issues that Askarov will not. This time around, he's facing someone who's just he's fought a lot of good guys in this division, including the title challenger on March 6th, Aljamain Sterling, and that win really did a lot for Aljamain at the time, and it will not do anything for Asgard because man, these double names, man, I've never seen this, a double name on a UFC roster. This is really strange. Asgard, we know Askarov. I'm sure those guys are gonna feel really weird when they see each other. Only an ROV separating those two. And he's actually been knocked out in 30 seconds as soon as February of last year. So I have to have questions about his chin, but Stamen has proven not to be a power puncher. He likes to play it safe on the ground, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to get an unanimous decision win.
Yep, that's exactly how I put it. He's going to use his wrestling, 15 minutes, and control the fight.
Yeah, and I also have money on him, as I stated before.
Yeah, yeah. So that was your 3-fight parlay. Cody Stanman, Alistair Overeem, and Corey Sandhagen.
Yes.
A parlay that I think, in my opinion, is very likely to come in.
Yes, a $100 bet on that would result in $315 in profit.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby.
At all.
Yeah. Moving on to one of the most underrated fights on the card: Beneil Dariush versus Diego Ferreira. And this is a really good fight. But recently, Beneil Dariush has fallen in love with his hands. We've seen that in his last 2 fights against Scott Holtzman and I watched the fight as well recently before this.
Struck out close.
Struck out close. That's it. He's fallen in love with his hands. He likes to a war. It's looking like Beneil Dariush likes to strike a little bit. He's fallen in love with them, and Both men have great BJJ, and I have to favour Diego Ferreira on the ground. I think Diego Ferreira is a bit more better on the ground. He's a legit BJJ black belt. But I think we're going to see another wild fight, and I think we're going to see Benil Dariush get a KO early on. I think it's going to be quite sloppy on the feet for the first 2.5 minutes, and Benil Dariush will land. Well, they'll start to land on each other's chin. I don't think any men will shoot though. I don't think anyone will go for a takedown because they'll cancel each other out. Benil Dariush is really good on the ground as well in his own right. He's a great BJJ practitioner. But I feel like this fight will be contested on the feet, and Benil Dariush will get a knockout.
Dariush has gotten better, but I also know that Ferreira has gotten way better. He's improved so much. He actually submitted Anthony Pettis. He was the only guy to ever submit Anthony Pettis. And I don't think a lot of guys can do that to Pettis. Again, he actually did it with a neck crank back in January of 2020. And I don't think he can do that to Dariush. Dariush is such a good BJJ practitioner. He's only gotten submitted by Chiesa, who's way bigger than him. Dariush has actually won his recent fights by knockout, as you previously stated. And I don't think Ferreira's chin is as bad as you might think. I think he'll be able to hang in there. And it's going to be more of the same than the previous fight. There'll be more exchanges on the feet this time around. He won't be able to control Carlos Diego like he did last time. I think that Dariush has got a little more power. It would not be wise for him to chase a finish though, because he could get caught. He's actually he's been sparring with Gaethje. He was actually the guy that emulated Tony Ferguson for the Tony Ferguson camp. He said all he did was he would like to throw out Imanari what's it called? Imanari, what are they called? Yeah, Imanari rolls. Yes, Imanari rolls. He would just throw them out randomly. He would fight wildly. He was the guy that was emulating Tony Ferguson for Gaethje, and I think Gaethje has made him a better fighter. He's been way better on the feet than he used to be. He got knocked out by Alexander Hernandez and Edson Barbosa back in the day, and he hasn't been knocked out in a couple years now. I don't think he'll be knocked out this time. I think this will be a very fun fight. I think they should get more spotlight. I actually wouldn't even mind if this ended up being the main event. This is how much I love this fight. This is a rematch, and it's going to be the same result this time. And Dariush is an underdog, but I'm not betting on him. I think it's going to be a very close fight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another wild fight on the feet for Dariush, and he'll get the better of it. Well, moving on to the main event on the prelims, we've got Clay Guida versus Michael Johnson. This is a weird one, and in my opinion, the loser gets cut. And Guida is wild on the feet. We've seen that in the past, but he just looks for that takedown constantly, and his wrestling is really good over there. I still believe he train at Team Alpha Male? He still trains over there with them guys, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
I don't recall, to be honest.
Is it Team Alpha Male? Yeah, over at Uriah. I think he's over there. Yeah, I believe he is. But anyway, yeah, he's always looking for that takedown constantly. And with Michael Johnson, you don't know what Michael Johnson you're going to get. You're going to get a good one. You're going to get a bad one. Let's look at this guy's resume. He's beat Tony Ferguson. He knocked out Dustin Poirier let me add, he just knocked out Conor McGregor. He's beat Dustin Poirier. He knocked him out. So this guy, he's been around, fought the who's who, and in round one, Michael Johnson always looks good. He always looks sharp, always looks good. But obviously, as the fight goes on, he gets slower, and then he just makes mistakes. And I see a clear striking advantage for Michael Johnson in this feat, and that's where he's got to keep the fight. He's got to keep the fight on the feet, and if he keeps it on the feet, then he's going to find himself getting maybe a knockout or a decision. Johnson hasn't got a finish on the feet since, as I just previously mentioned, Dustin Poirier in 2016. He hasn't finished a fight. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. Recently getting tapped out by Thiago Moises, but I think this is going to be a unanimous decision win for Michael Johnson, and he's going to return back to winning ways. I just see Guida, reckless, wild on the feet, looking for that takedown. Who knows if it goes to 2 and 3, he would take the fight in my opinion. But it depends how Michael Johnson looks in that round 2. After round 1, he looks lackluster and not up to scratch. I feel like Michael Johnson will repair that. And against Clay Guida, a very winnable fight. And I think he will take a unanimous decision win.
Yeah, Clay Guida actually hasn't been knocked out too many times in the octagon. He's proven to have a pretty decent chin. The last time I believe he got knocked out was by a knee from Brian Ortega. He really hasn't been finished by strikes on a consistent basis, despite being, at the end of his career. His most recent win was BJ Penn. That doesn't look too good on anybody's record these days. We saw BJ Penn, just just in an unfortunate situation as of late. And Clay Guida, you know, I don't think he's motivated these days. He lost to Bobby Green last time around, and before that, he got put to sleep in under a minute by Jim Miller with a guillotine. Of course, we're not going to see those kind of issues for Clay Guida against someone like a Michael Johnson who loves to keep it on the feet and he tries to knock you out early. Uh, in his fight with Gaethje, he nearly put him to sleep. There's no reason why Gaethje shouldn't have gone to sleep in that fight. He got hit with everything in that first round, which is why Michael Johnson gassed in that second round, eventually got finished. And I don't think Clay Guida has the power to do that here or the submission skills. But hey, we saw Michael Johnson get submitted by Darren Elkins in what was just an unfortunate loss for him. He had the fight in the palm of his hands until he didn't. He hurt him bad in the first round, which is it's very possible that this fight goes the same way. It goes Clay Guida by decision. But Clay Guida has 17 losses on his record. It's not a pretty record at all. And Michael Johnson is the most unreliable fighter on this roster. This guy, he has the fight in the palm of his hands, and it just slips out every time. And it slipped out of his hands 5 times in a row. Although I do believe that he beat CV Ray when he fought him. I watched that fight again recently, and I thought Michael Johnson did enough that night. And they also didn't get a fight of the night bonus, so that was a double loss for him that night. And he has the 3-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage as well. So I think he'll be able to keep himself away from Guida. He'll be able to possibly land a bomb, although he hasn't done that, as you pointed out, since 2016. But I'll go with Johnson by first round knockout. If he doesn't get it done in the first round, it's going to be danger for him because his cardio is bad, and Guida has the energy of a child still to this day.
Yeah, Guida's cardio is insane. And Michael Johnson, that doesn't look good for Michael Johnson. If Guida can push it to the late rounds, he will start to take over.
Yeah. Also, you have to have questions about Guida's output if this goes to the judges' scorecards. He lands an average of 2.4 strikes per minute. That's really not too good compared to Michael Johnson, who throws 4.2 strikes per minute. So that might be detrimental to Guida's success if this goes to judges' scorecards. But hey, I did see that Johnson Habib fight back at UFC 205, the main event of the prelims. Habib was robbed of his title fight, and now he had to fight Michael Johnson, and he made him pay in every way imaginable. He dominated that fight, but Michael Johnson looked pretty decent considering what we've seen Habib do to guys. He was able to avoid many takedowns against Habib, which is that's not something a guy like Dustin Poirier can say. So hey, but Johnson has beaten Tony and Dustin, that's a preposterous sentence these days, especially a guy that's 20-16. So maybe he'll get to 21-16. I think he will. First round knockout, Michael Johnson. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, but to a certain extent, I feel like the durability of Clay Guida, as you mentioned there, as you mentioned before, I don't think he'll be able to get him out there. But I feel like Michael Johnson will get round 1 and 2, and then round number 3 is where we'll see Clay Guida with that cardio and take over a little bit. But it'll be too little, too late.
Yeah, I do believe that. That's just what's going to happen.
Oh, next fight we have Danilo Marquez versus Mike Slow Rodriguez, and this is a tough fight to pick. The both fighters are stronger in different aspects. Rodriguez is the better striker, and Danilo is the better grappler. Rodriguez takedown defense is not very good. It's disastrous, and this is where Danilo wants to fight. And both men kind of lack cardio. We saw that in Rodriguez's last fight against Ed Herman. His cardio, and we've seen it previously before in his fights. And Danilo in his last fight, I forgot who it was against. He gassed out and he was throwing sloppy punches.
It was Cadiz Ibrahimov.
Yeah, that's the fight. That fight was weird. They were both fighting really wild punches. Danilo didn't look all right there on the feet. Do you know what I'm saying? He just didn't look crisp, didn't look sharp. It just, yeah, I wasn't impressed with his striking skills. And I feel like Rodriguez will be able to keep this one on the feet, and he'll get it early. He'll land often and heavy early, and he will knock out Danilo in round one.
Yeah, you interviewed Danilo Marquez, right?
No.
No. Oh, that was
I'm
something.
joking. I'm joking.
Because I was
Yeah,
about to say,
Mhm.
you did?
Yeah.
Oh, you were playing with me. Yeah, well, I was about to say, as I'm gonna be as respectful as I can, because the guy gave up his free time for this channel, but he's going to sleep. Plain and simple. The guy has not fought the best of competition. If you look at his the level of competition he's faced, a bunch of those guys have losing records. I just can't trust him here to take down Mike Rodriguez and to submit him. He gassed last time around. I just when a fighter gasses, I kind of have no sympathy for them, because that's something you kind of can control with your fighting style or how dedicated you are outside of the octagon. Michael Bisping blew out both of his knees running so much. The guy sacrificed everything for his good cardio, and it really was an asset to uh to his fighting style, the way he would fight. And Marquez does not have that, but it won't matter, because I think that we're gonna see a really great performance from Rodriguez. He was robbed of a win last time against Ed Herman. That was just an unfortunate situation all around. He obviously won that fight in the second round, but in the third round, he gassed himself out because he already felt like he won. So he was trying to get some ground and pound out of Ed Herman. He was doing it so recklessly. He got caught in the Kimura, and he has Joe Lozon in his corner, you know, uh, who is a really good BJJ practitioner. And I think if it goes to the ground, Joe Lozon should be able to instruct him how to get out of those submissions, and he'll put him down, and he'll get a knockout in the first round.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see the fight. And yeah, I was trying to be respectful, but Danilo gets clipped easily. We've seen it against Cadiz. He was getting hit a lot as well, and he was very wild and sloppy on the feet. And Rodriguez, he's a great fighter, and he's good at stand up, and he's going to be clipped early, and it'll be in round one.
Yeah. Also, let me remind you, Ibrahimov lost to Ed Herman, so I'm just I'm not impressed with these opponents. These guys have faced as of late either.
Yeah, moving on to the next fight, Martin Day versus Timur Valuev. Day versus against Grant in round one. He looked great. He looked impressive. He knocked him down in that fight and almost finished the fight. But that was the problem. He didn't finish the fight, and his cardio failed him, and and he got tired, and then he got KO'd in that fight. This is a good matchup for Valuev. He's a striker too, and he's a deadly one. I think he's really good on the feet. If you look at his debut, that first round is probably one of the most impressive first round debutants I've ever seen in a long while. But the problem is, he got clipped, he got tired, and he got knocked out. But that launched one of the best comebacks the UFC have ever seen. But both men have tremendous kicks. but I'm leaning towards Valiev. Even though he lost his last fight, and Martin lost his last 3 fights, I think now. But the first round, Timur Valiev, he looked really good. I think it could have been arguably a 10-8 round. He looked. I think he even knocked Trevin Jones down at one point. But yeah, unfortunately, he did get tired hunting for that finish, and he got clipped. Made a mistake, got clipped. But in this fight, I don't think he's going to make that mistake anymore, and I think he's going to land on Day's chin and potentially get a TKO finish.
Yeah, I think Valiev is not much of a finisher these days, which is why he was trying to get that finish this time that time around against Jones, and it backfired on him. He got really tired and he got finished. I thought that actually was a little bit of an early stoppage, but Valiev is he doesn't have good cardio, and I don't feel too confident betting on guys with good cardio with bad cardio. But I'm gonna have to do it here because Martin Day is has not won in the UFC. Martin Day got submitted in his last outing against Anderson Dos Santos, and I don't think Day is UFC caliber. So I'm gonna have to side with Valiev. I think Valiev should be smarter this time around. He should try to keep it on the ground if he can, but if it's on the feet, he shouldn't be in too much trouble. But later on, he should keep it on the ground because he'll get clipped if he doesn't.
Yep, exactly, 100%. That's the way I see the fight going. Timur Valiev will take this decision. If not, maybe a KO in round one. Moving on to the next fight, Justin James versus Devontae Smith. Justin James stepping in on short notice. I think it came out yesterday that he stepped in. What a lifesaver and a perfect matchup for these two men. And I love Justin James, man. He swings. He loves to swing them hooks, and he's wild with them. And Smith needs to be careful because if Justin lands that left hook, it's night night. But Justin has some good. He had some good skills on the ground too. I've seen on his tape. He has some really good wrestling, and he has a really good underrated guillotine. I've seen that in his previous fights. He gets on the guillotine quite a lot, and he finished the guillotine, and it was a nasty guillotine. And but he's also why I favour Justin James kind of is because he's been active. We've seen Smith. He hasn't entered the cage for 17 months. Which in his last fight he got KO'd by Karma Worthy. And Devontae, though, I feel like this is a fight that he can keep on the feet. I think Justin James will want this on the feet as well. And I'm giving the edge to Smith on the feet, though. I feel like he's more crisper, more sharper, and I think he definitely has the speed advantage in this. He's quick. The way he throws them 1-2s down the pipe, we've seen it at previous times. We saw it against who did he knock out? I can't remember. But I feel like Devontae Smith takes this one via KO in the second round.
I think that's probably what's going to happen, but Devontae Smith is coming off a long layoff, and he got
17.
finished by Kama Worthy in a fight that he was a massive favorite in. Nobody expected Kama Worthy to win that, and Smith has crazy power. He's a one punch guy. A lot of these people claim certain guys are power punchers, but they usually have to follow it up with some ground and pound. This guy doesn't need ground and pound. This guy gets it done with one punch, and that's gonna spell trouble for Justin James. You interviewed James, right?
I have twice. But the first
Yes.
one didn't come out. I had some issues with that one, but the second one, it did.
Yeah. Really, no disrespect to James here. His last fight he lost by it was like a body kick. Yes, it was a body kick against
Gabriel Benitez.
Gabriel Benitez,
Yeah.
and that was an unfortunate loss. You really can't control your body once you get hit there, and that was in front of his father. That was really unfortunate. But I do think he's not going to have too much of a different night here against somebody as powerful as Devontae Smith. Smith is just crazy powerful, and I do think he might be in trouble if this gets on the ground, but I don't think he'll get there. I think we're going to see an early knockout, second round, as you said.
Yeah, you said the power of Smith and the speed also. The speed this guy throws is ridiculous. And 17-month layoff, that's concerning. And how active James has been as well, that could pay in his favour. But this fight is a great fight, and unfortunately, if you're watching this, Justin James, I'm so sorry. I love you, man, but I'm gonna go with Devontae Smith in this fight.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there.
One I'm kind of looking forward to, actually really looking forward to, Jocelyn Edwards versus Carol Rosa. I mean, if you watch Jocelyn Edwards' last fight against Yanan Wu, she looked incredible. She looked good on the feet. In her last fight, we've seen in the whole of her career. If you go look at her fight versus Pamela Gonzalez, oh my god, she destroyed that woman in 32 seconds. It was incredible. But Carol Rosa, she likes to stand and trade. She's very wild compared to Jocelyn Edwards. Jocelyn Edwards is more straight, more technical. Carol Rosa is more, looping her punches. The kicks in this fight will play a massive factor. I feel like Jocelyn Edwards will use them calf kicks and maybe slow her down. But Carol Rosa, on her part, she has some heavy leg kicks. If you look at her fights, her leg kicks are really, really heavy, and she likes to set them up, and she likes to go up high as well also. But I feel like the Muay Thai of Jocelyn Edwards and the kickboxing will be too much for Carol Rosa in this fight, and I just see her picking her apart, picking apart Carol Rosa and earning a decision win. What's your thoughts on the Jocelyn Edwards versus Carol Rosa fight?
I actually have to disagree. I think Hosa is a really good fighter.
She
She
is.
actually is a very high volume fighter.
Mm-hmm.
In her fight against I can't remember her name, some Procopio. Yes, Procopio. She's fighting later on this card. She threw about 250 significant strikes. She likes to be active, and I think that'll lead her to victory. Jocelyn Edwards really impressed me in her last fight. I wasn't too excited for that fight. I thought it would be a split decision, a very close fight. But when I saw it, wasn't that close. Wu looked really bad, and Edwards shined. She even got a drop kick off of her back, which was awesome. I think Edwards is a fun fighter to watch, but she hasn't had too much time to prepare for this, which is why I cannot pick her, especially against somebody with high output like Hosa. So I think Hosa gets this done by split decision, but this is a risky fight for Hosa to take against someone like Edwards, who we haven't seen too much of in the UFC yet. So I think she could surprise some people, but I'm gonna have to side with Hosa with the high output.
Nice. I like the pick. If I watch tape on Carol Hosa and her leg kicks, her calf kicks are very, very heavy. She's got very heavy kicks, and that's something Justin Edwards will need to avoid if she wants to. And I said here in my notes, if Carol Rosa can land them kicks to Justin Edwards' legs, that could slow the movement down of Justin Edwards and kind of limit her movement, and that's the key to victory for Rosa, is getting them leg kicks and getting them in early.
Yeah, I have to agree with you.
Well, we just talked about her, Lara Procopia versus Molly McCann. This is a fight that's on the prelims, and I'll let Oscar go ahead.
Yeah, Procopio has a five and a half five and a half reach advantage in this fight, so I think that really should be a huge advantage here, especially when she's trying to get a submission on the ground. She's won most of her fights by submission, and in her last fight she was exposed. Her striking is just not that good. But if she gets us on the ground, which I think she should be able to in the smaller cage, we've seen a lot of first round submissions that have caught me off guard, like Andre Muniz versus Fabinski. That was a really surprising one. We've seen a lot of first round submissions, and that's what I'm thinking happens here. Molly McCann has proved to be a really well rounded fighter. She can get it done on the feet and on the ground as well, but she's not a black belt, and Procopio is. So I'm gonna have to side with the fighter with the longer reach and the better Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills.
You kind of hit the nail on the head there, but I've gone for a different outcome. I said I wrote here Molly McCann. Her game's all about boxing. She has a great boxing. She's very good at it. But there's not many kicks. She doesn't really throw many kicks in her arsenal. It's really straight boxing and sticking to her jab, her 1-2, and her wide hooks. She lands her left a lot in her fights. She likes to fight in the pocket, and that's where I think she'll win this fight, in the pocket. I think she'll get in, get out without Lara be able to get a hold of her, and that's the way the fight will go. But Lara, on the other hand, you mentioned there, she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter, black belt. We've seen Molly McCann being controlled in the past. She got controlled versus Talia Santos in her last fight on the floor. She got controlled by Gillian Robertson, then got submitted. But I feel like Molly McCann would have worked on that, and she'll win this fight. And I don't feel like Lara Procopio will be able to get her on the floor, submit her. And I think Molly McCann will use her boxing very nicely, get in the pocket and get out sharply and win this fight. And I'll point her.
Yeah, that's very possible, but I don't think she'll be able to escape the submission threat.
I was looking at her tape, and Lara Procopio, she got a nasty armbar. I saw this armbar, and it was incredible. Well, moving on to this would be if I think, would this be the early prelims? These two fights. Moving on to the early prelims.
Yeah, I think this is for fight nights they don't have early prelims. I don't know how it works in the UK, but we all just they're just prelims
Oh,
on
okay.
fight night.
Yeah, we have early prelims here. Yeah, then we have early
Oh,
prelims and prelims.
oh, I never knew that.
Well, talk about the first the second early prelim, but the first one we're talking about is Soyun Woi Choi versus Yusuf Salau. That was the probably best pronunciation I will ever make in my life. But anyway, what's your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I think Choi is he's unreliable. He's proven to be unreliable, as Allah has proven to be quite reliable. He actually got 3 wins last year. He was looking for the fourth, but he met an undefeated prospect named Ilya Taporia, who has since proven to be an animal. That guy is going to be a title challenger at some point, if you ask me. And so it proves to be no real shame for Zalal, who's he's 10-3. He's 2 inches shorter, but that really won't be much of a factor, especially when Zalal can take this fight wherever he wants to. He can take him down. He can land some crazy kick like he did against Peter Barrett. He's gonna be able to control this fight. How did he not put Peter Barrett away with that spinning back kick? How did he not get that done?
That was crazy.
And Choi's been knocked out before, and he was supposed to face Anglin. There's actually that was one of many fights on this card where we're seeing a fighter come in on short notice and shuffle the deck, if you will. And I thought Anglin was gonna knock out Choi here. I don't think Zalal's the same knockout threat as Anglin, so I'm gonna have to side with Zalal by a dominant unanimous decision. What do you think?
That's the exactly the way I've got it. Choi is a Muay Thai world champion, but he struggled with his takedown defense in the past. We've seen that against Ivo Loyev. He got taken down at will. Zalal is a kickboxer, and he started at the age of 10. He started kickboxing at 10 years old, Zalal. Incredible. So this is a kickboxer versus a Muay Thai matchup, and it's a good stylistic matchup for both men. But I feel like Zalal will edge the one on the feet and just beat him to the punch for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I will have to agree with you there.
Well, the first fight of the evening, one I'm really excited about. I think, well, the MMA has found a gem, and the UFC have found a gem. Dennis Bonda versus OD Osborne. Bonda, I looked at his tape, man. He looked phenomenal. He looked really good. I'm really high on this guy. He had really some great wrestling. He had some good submission skills. We talked about it before the show. If you go look at his submission win, he has like an armbar off the ramp, side off the ramp. It was it was strange but incredible. It was funny to watch. But his striking is not there, not as polished as Odie Osborne. He has some good. Odie Osborne has some good striking, much better than Bonda in this fight. But I think he has good. Odd Bonda has a good spinning back kick, and he has really good knees in the clinch. I saw that on tape. He has some really good knees. Can Odie stop the takedown? I don't think so. We've seen this in his career. He's been taken down easily, but off his back, O'Day Osborne is a problem. We've seen it in the past. He has submission skills. He has a few triangle wins in his career. He has an armbar win in his career, and but I just think this is going to be a Bonda wrestling clinic for 15 minutes. What's your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, the only thing I have against Bonder in this spot is he's faced very questionable competition. Anybody can look good against a guy that's 18-12. So here, that's a big red flag as I see the resumes of these two. But Ode Osborne was submitted in the first round against Brian Kelleher on that Connor Cowboy card back in January of last year, and ever since then I've kind of had a sour taste in my mouth against Ode Osborne because I didn't know too much about the guy after his Contender Series fight. I wasn't too sure about him, but I actually picked him to beat Brian Kelleher, and I looked really dumb when he got submitted in the first round. So I'm gonna have to side with Bonder here to get the first round finish by submission, likely an armbar, as you said.
Well, yeah, that's the UFC Fight Night Overeem versus Volkov picks. From me and Oscar, we've picked our winners and how they're gonna do it. Well, anyway, that's it there, Oscar. A very great night of fights that we had ahead. What's the most fight that you're most looking forward to?
Yeah, that Benil Dariush versus Diego Ferreira rematch. That fight is being overlooked by too many people. I want that to be the main event. I really don't. I'm not too much of a fan of 5 round main event heavyweight fights because they usually get really slow later on. Those guys don't slow down. So I think that fight should steal a show. If not, Manel Kape and Alexandra Pantoja, that will be a bang of a fight.
Exactly.
Assuming my pick is wrong, because I expect the first round submission.
Exactly. You chose my two favorite ones and most excited ones. I'm looking forward to as well. Alexandra Pinjota versus Minel Cap, phenomenal fight. Former Rising champion, knocked out Kaya Zakara, who knocked out Korohuchi, and he knocked him out, but he got the belt back. But he's a great fighter, really good on the feet, dangerous, heavy hands, and Benil Dariush, Diego Ferreira, just a phenomenal matchup. Phenomenal stylistic matchup, and I'm looking forward to it. Great night of fights. For me and Oscar, a very good bye. Thank you for tuning in. And that was our predictions for Overeem versus Volkov. Thank you very much, and tune in next week. Thank you. Oh, next week is UFC 258. Let's get hyped. Come on. I can't wait for that. Wait, is it next week? Is it next week?
Yes, it is
It's next week.
February
Yeah.
13th.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
UFC 258 next week. Anyway, let's round it off. From me and Oscar, a very good bye.